If you watched 50 tutorial and still you are not able to build a real project, then this will change that. Today we are going to build a full stack task manager using Angular, .NET and SQL Server step by step. By the end of this, you will have the project which you can show in your interview. This is the architecture we will build: Angular UI, .NET Core API, SQL Server as a database. Simple, clean and exactly how the real application works. First, let's understand what we are building. A task manager where user can add, update, delete and mark task as a complete. This cover CRUD operation, which is the foundation of every application. So let's start with the backend because that define our data. So let me share my screen. You can follow with me, or you can just finish the video first and then you can try to build the application your own, and if you stuck somewhere then you can come again and watch the solution. So we will create the .NET Core API project. Let's start. So just click on the create new project. Select .NET Core API project from the template. So you can see ASP.NET Core Web API. Click on the next button. Now give the name of your project. So task manager.api and just keep as it is. Next, click on the next button. Now just keep the authentication type as a none and the other application as it is. We will discuss it all later. So let's click on the create button. So after click on the create button, it will create the ready project basically and some ready file as well. So let's see it. So now you can see the project has been created. So it has some predefined structure and some file as well. So we are not going to discuss each and everything right now because our focus is to build the project first. So just for your understanding, we have the app setting.json file where we have to keep the configuration of your application, like the database connection string or some value etc. So then there is the program.cs file. So if you are confused with the structure or architecture of the project, so you can comment. We can record another video where we can explain each and everything step by step. So let's start. So first we will add some packages which we require for our project. So first we will add the entity framework packages which is required to connect to the database. So let's add the package manage NuGet package. Let's try to search entity framework SQL Server because we are going to use the SQL Server as a database. So let's add it. The version should be the latest version as we have selected the 10 for our application. So the same will be applied for the packages as well. Now this package has been created. So we need another package as well, that is entity framework core tool. So let's add that as well. Now let's add that as well. Okay, so we have these two packages now has been created in our project. You can check here in the dependency packages. You can see here we have the two packages, SQL Server and tool, which two are required for the entity framework. So next we need a Swagger for testing purpose. So we will add the Swashbuckle package as well. So let's add it, Swashbuckle ASP.NET Core. Okay, it has been created. So next part we have to enable the Swagger for our application. So we need to add the dependency in the program.cs file. So let's add it, builder. You need to add the service dependency builder service dot add endpoint API explorer. Now add that builder service dot Swagger. Now let's add in the pipeline as well. So app use Swagger app dot use Swagger UI. Okay, so if you are not able to understand this part, so that is okay. Now, for time being, you can just follow with me. So if you confuse somewhere, then you can comment. We can explain that in the next video basically. So let's run the application and see if we are able to see the Swagger UI. So just run it, copy it. We can simply see if it is running. Okay, so actually I click on the Control C, that's why it's got closed. So let me run it again. Okay, now you can see that our API is running. So we can already see that there is the one endpoint which is already created by the .NET. So let stop the application. Create the task entity that will represent our data. So let's create the task entity. Right click on the project, add class, so let's task item, let's keep the name as a task item, add. Okay, now let's add some property to it. So that will be the ID column of the table. This will be our ID, then there will be the string, this should be our title, then will be string, this should be the description of the task. Then let's create the next property int, that will be the priority of the task, then create the int, then it should be what the status, then prop, then date time, what should be the due date of the task, then the prop date. Now we have created the task entity class. So next we will create the DB context class. So DB context is the bridge between API and the database. So we are going to create the DB context class. Right click here, add new class. So let's keep the name app DB context. We have to inherit from the DB context, okay. Now the public, now we have to create the constructor DB context options, DB context options, DB options. Okay, data set DB set, the option should be the task item. This is the, there will be the task. Okay, so public app db context option, it should be app db context, and this should be the option, this should be the. Now the db context class has been created. So understand the db context class is the basically db context class represent the our database session in the application, and it map table basically. So we are not going to discuss db context things in very detail. Again, if you want that, you can comment and we can record another video for that. So let's so now let's create the controller. Select the API controller empty, add, just give the name of the controller. So let's create the task controller, add it. So as we know, we have already the app db context which is representing the database. So let's add that as a context. So let's public class task, let's create the constructor tasks controller and that app db context, yes, okay. So now here if you see, we are injecting the db context instance using the constructor basically. So again, if you don't understand what is the dependency injection and how to inject the instance and all, so that is the different thing, we can discuss it later. So now you can just focus on the basically the project part. So let's create the endpoint. So the first endpoint we will create to return the all the tasks which is in the database. So let's create that public asyncs. This will be the get. So let's add the http get verb here, and this should be return the task action result and I enumerable, and that will be the again the task items, that is the get tasks. Okay, so this endpoint basically will be written all the task has been in the database. So let's do it, return context dot tasks return, because this is the async method, so we need to await it. So task, and we can do the order by, so we order by descending. So basically we will return the all the task by descending order of creation. So let's see that option dot created date, and then it will be the as async dot to list async. Okay, so now the one endpoint has been added where it will return the all tasks which is present in the database. Now let's create the another endpoint which will be return the particular task based on the past ID. So it will return particular task. So let's add the http get verb first, then public async, then it should be the task action result and the task items, and it should be the get task by id should be the task by id, and let's add this integer id. Where task is equal to, now let's await is context dot task dot find as async, and based on the of course id. So if this task is null, then return not found status code, else we will return the simply the task. Okay. So now we have the two endpoint, one which will return the all the task and another which will return the particular task based on the id. Now let's create the another http post endpoint. So post endpoint will be used to add the task. Okay, so public async, and this will be the task, and this will be the action result, and in the action result we will add the task, and this will be the create task, and we are expecting the task item as well here as a payload. So task item dot created date time dot and then context dot add, and we also need to add this item dot id is equal to, this will be always 0 because it will be generated by the API. So this id should be set to 0 because it will be generated by the database. Okay, context task dot add item. Okay, and let's await context dot save change as, and next is return return to the created action. So we will endpoint name of, so get task by id, get task by id, where id will be the created id, task item dot id, and simply we will return the task, we will return the item. Okay, so now we have the two get endpoint, and one is the for the adding task. Next let's create the another for the updating task. So that will be the http put public async task action result, and then it will be the, then it should be the action result only, and then that update task, and here we are expecting two parameter, one we are expecting here as well. So that will be the id, which task you are try to update, and here also we are expecting two, one is id and another is the task item task. So first we will just validate if id is not equal to the task dot id, then we run as the bad request, because it is always expected that the URL id and the id in the which is in the body payload id, that should be the, that is not the case, then context task dot entry, and the task dot entity state dot modify, and now we will try we will try context dot save change as async, and if it throw the exception, then we have to catch. There are the db concurrency exception, then we have to catch. Okay, so has been created. So now okay, and then return the no content. No content should be written as the delete endpoint. So let's create that as well. So let's create http delete. It should also require the id. Okay, sorry, now public async task action result and delete task, and here we are getting the id task. So first we are just try to get that task and then removing it and then saving the changes. So now we have all the endpoint ready. So let's run the application and see if it is if we are able to see our endpoints in the Swagger UI basically. So let's run it. Let's refresh it. Okay, so now you can see, we can see our endpoint here in the Swagger UI basically. So still it will not work because we haven't given the database connection still, or we did not migrated our model to the database. So let's do that first. So let's stop the application. So the next part we have to give the database connection. So let's do it. Let's do this though. So let's connection string, then there will be the, now let's add the connection string in the app setting. So here, and from the SQL server I am just deleting this all the migration and everything for time being. Let's run it and see how it's work. Now let's delete it. Okay, so now you can see we have the database task manager DB, but we don't have any table here. If you see here, so we don't have any table here. So let's just add the connection string. Sorry. So it's required the server name. So add it here. Okay. So now our connection string is ready. That we need to do in the program.cs file. So here we have to add that dependency. So builder service dot add db context. Okay. So our class is app db context. Added here. Let's add that option dot use because we are using the SQL server. So again here you have to the configuration. So you have to the build dot configuration dot get connection string, then you have to give the name of your connection string here. So that is the, you need to copy from here default. Okay, now we have given the, we have registered our app db context, and we have also given the connection string as well. So now let's try to run the migration. We need to run it, so we have to run it in the tool command line and then the terminal. So in the PowerShell terminal or in the console terminal you can run. So let's run in the console terminal. I run the migration command first. Once it run, you can see the migration folder here in the .NET solution basically. So it is running. Let's wait. Okay, so now you can say that now you can see we have already the migration folder has been created. Here you can say that you can see that the initial create file has been created. So what this basically migration command do, it basically compare our model with the database and accordingly it create the script to run for the SQL server. So once it will run, so we will able to see the table here inside this database task manager DB. So it is running, still running. So let's see once it is done. So we will able to see the data table here, the task table basically. It should be created here. Okay, now we got the success message. So let's see if the table has been created. Let's refresh it. Okay, now you can see that task table has been created. So we will run this and there is no record. So let's run our application and see if our endpoint is working as expected. So let's run it and now see the Swagger. Now if it is working as expected. Now let's run first. Okay, so now it is working. Let's test our API. So first we have the get API where it should return all the tasks. So basically we don't have right now any task. So let's first add the task. So let's test the post API first. Okay, so try here. We will simply task 1 description task 1 testing API. Let's add status and priority as 1 and let's execute it. So now we are getting the error. So let's see what is the problem. Okay, this constructor should be the public only. So that is the problem. It is not able to locate your constructor. So now let's run it again. Okay, now let's see again if it is working. Try task 1 for testing API. Now let's add 1. This should be also 1. Now hit the API. So it should return the created task. See, now we got the response. So now let's create one more task. It should be task 2, task 2, and let execute it. Okay, so now let's test the get API. See, now we are getting the both the task in the get API. Now let's test the another get API with the ID. So basically get the task 2. So it should return the task 2. Okay, see, now we are getting the response for task 2. Now let update the task 2. So you have to update, you have to give the ID same here as a 2, task 2 updated, and now task 2 updated as put API. Okay, so let's get it. Now let's try to get. Okay, task 2 updated, task as per put API. Okay, so everything working as expected. So let's finish this part here only, and in the next part of the video we will build the Angular part, and then we will merge the both the part, and we will see the one full stack working task manager application. If you feel anywhere in the video as stuck, or if you feel this is the tough, then you can comment your problem. We can see it, we can try to solve it. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video. Thank you so much.